Hello, everyone, and welcome to Game Over, where the Ottawa Senators come out with a 2-1 win over the New Jersey Devils on the second game of a back-to-back with travel to the Sens played yesterday in Ottawa. Came out with a huge win over the Boston Bruins, and less than 24 hours later, the Ottawa Senators come out with their fifth win in 6 games. I'm Damian Smith here on Game Over. Welcome to the show, everyone. This was another impressive win for the Senators. They improved to 24-18-4 on the record on the season. They move into the first wildcard spot in the Eastern Conference, and they are stepping away from mediocrity, I kind of want to call it. We always knew that this team was playing good hockey. It's just about getting the results, and you're starting to see it. You really are. And you don't want to get too excited now, because if they go on a 5-game losing streak, then they're basically at 500 again, and things could look really bad. But right now, I feel like this team can win any way they want to. No matter what, they don't have Linus Ullmark in the net. It has been a month basically since he played against the Edmonton Oilers back on December 22nd. And we're about a month later here, and we have gone on a solid run without him in the past 6 games. Like I said, they are 5-0-1 in their past 6, and their only loss was an OT loss against the Washington Capitals, who are the number 1 team in the league right now. So there's nothing really we can complain about overall, because the goaltending is doing the job. Shout out Anton Forsberg. We'll touch on that a little bit later. The defense, oh my goodness, the defense is so good. It is so good right now. 1 through 6. I don't know if maybe it's coincidence that Hamonic's out of the lineup right now and they're doing really well defensively. Getting Zub back and having a quality top 4 defenseman in him is doing wonders for this team now that he's healthy. And Nicholas Matinpalo, you just look at a guy like that, he can go out there and efficiently play 12 minutes a night, and he's not really going to hurt you. So the defense is great. The defense is great. I never thought I'd be saying that in these past 5 seasons, because this team has had so many struggles defensively over the past 5 years. And I'll give credit to Travis Green, but also Nolan Baumgartner, who runs the D-core for the Sens. They have done wonders for the defensive performance of this team overall. The offense, yes, there is time to improve that. They come out with another win tonight, and it's another 2-1 win. This team, the thing is, when they need to score, they do. Because you saw yesterday, literally less than 24 hours ago, this team put up 5 goals on the board. So when they push, they have the talent. That's the thing. Talent can always get you wins, no matter what. It's just about getting the extra 10 wins on the season through defensive performance, and that's what this team is doing right now. They're taking 1 step back on the offensive side, and they're taking 2 steps forward on defense. And that has gotten them some wins here as of late. So, and, through basically the entire season as well. As 24 wins, and I think in their 46 games so far this year, they would be at right now. Things are looking really good for this squad right now. Top to bottom, basically, and Ullmark is right there in the wings. But the thing is that Anton Forsberg jumped into this game tonight, and he made some very quality saves out there and gave them a chance, right? Forszy's been on the hot seat for a little while now because he hasn't won a game since November. Ullmark went on that run, and then Marilainen stepped in. So no matter what, it seems like, Forszy's kind of coming back a little bit, but I think, he's bought himself another day. I'll say that. Because, I was with the crowd saying that we should maybe consider waiving him. It's just a thought. Because you need the cap space if you want to add forward. But you know what? A great performance by him today. He puts up 24 saves on 25 shots. Let's go through the game now. Because it was not a good start for your Ottawa Senators. New Jersey, for context, was also on the second game of the back-to-back. They played last night, and I think they lost that one as well. But the thing is, they didn't travel. And so the Ottawa Senators rolled into town last night. I think it was reported by Dean Brown. They got in around 10 p.m. And then, boom, quick game, 1 o'clock Eastern. No naps, no afternoon naps. And the first period sucks. Like, the first 10 minutes were terrible. Oh, my goodness. But this is what you need your goaltenders for, especially your backups, and especially on the back-to-backs, because Anton Forsberg allows a ton of shots right off the bat, and there's some great chances for the New Jersey Devils, but he stops all of them. And the Sens look sluggish. I'm watching them like, can they even get a shot off? And they got a couple, but there wasn't really any chances whatsoever. And you're happy that you end the first period with a 1-0, or with a tie at 0-0, because that first period was not good. Shots were 16-2 for the New Jersey Devils. It's not good whatsoever. But like I said before, Forsberg ending up with 25 shots against at the end of the game is crazy compared to seeing what that first period was like for your Ottawa Senators. So we head into the second period, and I would say, midway through the second, Zach Ostapchuk finally gets his first goal in the NHL. About time. He's had some chances. He's not the flashiest guy offensively. I think we all know that. And I kind of keep forgetting that he's been on the roster for basically all the year. He's approaching 40 games at this rate on the team. And he hasn't been scratched a whole lot from what I can know. Maybe there's been a couple games in there. But overall, he's been in every game, and he does his role quietly. That's the thing. He doesn't make any egregious errors out there, and you can throw him out for 10 minutes, and he's going to play those 10 minutes pretty efficiently because he's got the size and he's got the strength. And he takes a pop pass kind of from the half wall from Amadio, it's a nice to have him back in the lineup. I know he's caught a lot of flack over the season, mainly due to his offensive performance, but having him in the lineup helps the Sens. Ostapchuk takes the pass and rips one in the slot. I think it hit Markstrom. I think it hit sort of under his, armpit, if you want to call it that. And it squeaks through. And that gives the Sens a 1-0 lead on the road. And this team is so good already playing with the lead. And especially on the road, because they have an excellent road game right now. It's just kind of copy-paste every single game on the road. And they do such a good job at it. It makes it 1-0 for your Ottawa Senators. Matthew Highmore also picks up an assist on the play. He's been pretty good as well. A nice call-up for the Sens. Makes it 1-0 for the Sens. Ostapchuk, whenever there's a first goal in a game, you're always really happy for the player and really happy just overall because it kind of sends a big boost for the team overall in their mojo. But quickly, right after that, Tomas Tatar comes down. As I drop my phone there. Show my webcam got a little webcam mishap there. But yeah, the Devils come back basically the next shift, and it's a 3-on-2. Jensen pinches down. Not the greatest play overall there. Jensen's been great this year, so we're not going to harp on him too much. Stützle is helping back on the 3-on-2. And then Chabot's there as well. But all three players sort of get tangled up a little bit. And Tatar ends up putting in the rebound and sliding it past Forsberg. You can't fault Forsy on that one. I think he made the first save, so that's kind of all you want. And once Tatar had the puck on the ice and he was out alone, Forsy was kind of down in position. So Tatar ties it up, and we head into the second intermission with a 1-1 tie. So not terrible. You'll take it, especially on the road on the second game of a back-to-back. But this is where the Devils started to get tired because they came out flying, right? You're kind of used to, if you're on the second game of a back-to-back, one team will come out flying and the other will come out really flat. And the Sens did a great job. Once they actually locked in and they got the first goal, that's a classic road defensive performance of what they did in the third period because it's a 1-1 game. It's a 1-1 game, and the Sens are picking up momentum because in the second period, I believe the shots were at 10-7 for the Ottawa Senators. And a quick goal, 3 minutes into the third period. Shane Pinto, below the goal line, feeds a pass up to the point, and Artem Zub just takes a simple shot on net, and it catches Markstrom by surprise. Not a slap shot, not a hard shot really at all, but Zub beats Markstrom and puts the Sens up 2-1. So a little bit of a lucky goal, but you will take it. You will take it any day of the week. Pinto, I don't know what their record is with him getting a point, but once I saw that he got that assist, I was like, okay, they got this in the wraps. It's over. It's over. The Sens got this. And it's so weird to see this team play so well defensively, because as fans, we just haven't been used to it. And as we go through the rest of the period here, the Sens allow 3 shots in the third period. That's it. 3 shots. There were some chances towards the end when the Devils had the goalie pulled. That's for sure. Not a whole lot, though. Like, Hughes had a shot kind of on the left side near the dot, and Forsberg made a solid save there. But you could see and you could hear from all the boos from the Devils and the crowd and all their fans that they were not happy. They were not happy whatsoever with that performance, and that tells you that the Sens did a great job at locking it down in those last basically 5 minutes of the game. They might have allowed 1 shot on net, and that's it. That's it. Now, the Devils were tired because they played yesterday, and they've been in a little bit of a slump right now. And I was looking at the standings, and I think the Devils have 3 more games than us, and we're 6 points back. So that's a team that we're right there with. I know they're not in our division, obviously, but the Devils have been pretty good this year too, and haven't had a ton of major injuries from what I know. And you know, they're doing well. They're doing fine. But Washington is really running away with that division now, because the Devils, I think, are about 10 points back of them in the second spot, and Carolina is right behind them. So yeah, the Devils are struggling right now, and the Sens kind of take advantage of that. They get in their heads. They play good road defensive hockey, and the Sens come out with a 2-1 win. You didn't say that a lot in the past 5 years. Like, this team would always win games 5-3. They would win games. You know, they put up a really good performance, winning 8-0, but they never won those tight games really that much. And if they did, they would probably win like 50% of them in those tight games. But now it seems like they're winning 80% of them. And the beautiful thing is that the core is locking in with the defensive hockey. Like, you're looking at Tkachuk. He's going 7 games pointless right now, and you can't complain about his performance though really that much. I mean, yes, it would be nice to get some points on the board for the captain, but when you see him out there, he's forechecking, he's being really good with his stick to break up plays, and that's a player that's just buying into a system. And then obviously everyone else on the team is going to follow the leader, and they're also buying in as well. So there's not really a player that you can look on this roster. Maybe if you want to critique them offensively, then there might be some issues there. But overall, this team is locking in 1 through 12 on the forwards. Their goalies are playing pretty well, especially Marilainen as of late, and their defense has been stellar. So can't complain whatsoever. The Sens show up with a 2-1 win over the New Jersey Devils, and they'll be back on Tuesday against the Rangers, who, you know what, usually we would be kind of scared about that game, but going up against any team, and especially the Rangers this year, who have been, you're still weighing for the Rangers to potentially make a little bit of a run, and then maybe not get a divisional spot, but get a wild card spot. And they've been okay as of late. And the thing is that there's still some opportunities to grab some wild card spots right now, and they could make a little bit of a run and make it back into the playoffs. So the Rangers will be a tough test, but at this rate, man, we could beat anyone, I think, at this rate. Maybe not like Winnipeg or Minnesota, although we beat Minnesota. So like Washington, maybe we wouldn't win on the road though. Like, but the thing is, we're good on the road. We know how to play. If we get the first goal of the game, the Sens can win. They lock it down. I think Gordon Miller said on the broadcast when they score first, they're like 18-3-1 or something. That's really good. And this team was already good at locking it down defensively before. It was just about getting the first goal. And they're doing a better job at that this year. So the Sens, once again, they come out with a 2-1 win, and things are looking really good. We're so used to just kind of breaking down plays and breaking down the defensive miscommunications that this team has had over the years, and not yelling, but critiquing the defensive style of this team. But they do an excellent job at pretty much anything in the defensive zone right now. But before we head into the next segment, and we're going to take sort of a look at the schedule ahead for your Ottawa Senators, because they have 10 games left before the Four Nations tournament. Sorry, I wanted to call it Frozen Four. And there's going to be a couple of Sens in that tournament. There's going to be Brady Tkachuk, and there's going to be Linus Ullmark, and I think that's it. So the captain and the starting goaltender, unless, Ullmark gets injured or something once again. But we're going to preview a little bit of the next 10 games that the Sens are going to have, and I think they're going to reach around the 55-game mark. And they're going to have, a couple more games after that, and then the trade deadline. So they're going to have a nice 10-day break. However, before that, I just want to tell you about Hyperdrive Hockey. Get ready to have some fun with your new source for all the biggest stories in hockey, bringing a unique style of broadcasting and commentary with a Quebecois flavor. Hyperdrive Hockey combines a top-tier hockey analysis, big stories, pop culture, and a fun atmosphere that will drive debate, make you think, and more. So you can join Max Van Hoot, Daphne Malboeuf, and Kevin Laramé every Tuesday and Friday to fill all your hockey needs. You can watch it on YouTube, any Game Over Network channel, or subscribe to the podcast on Apple, Spotify, or Amazon. And you can also make sure to check out the website as well for more. But we're going to take a look at the next 10 games for your Ottawa Senators. And ideally, if you want to, the Sens have put themselves in a decent position right now, because they're not hovering around 500. They're 6 games out from 500 as of right now. And after that road trip that ended with Detroit, they got a point out of that one. I think they went 4-1, so it was not a horrible road trip, but the thing is that they won the first 3 of those. It was Seattle, Calgary, and Vancouver, and then they went on a little bit of a slide with Edmonton, and then they lost against Minnesota, Winnipeg, and then St. Louis, then Dallas, right? So there were some losses in there, or not Minnesota, they won in Minnesota, but there were some losses in there, and historically this team has never done very well in the Midwest overall, so it was okay, all things considered, and thank God they picked up those 3 wins in the Pacific area, or the Pacific Division, if you want to call it that. And now they're going to head out for 2 more games on the road, and usually I would look at the schedule and be like, oh my God, okay, if there's a 3-game road trip, I'm happy if we get 1 win. But right now, I feel like this team can win on all 3 of them. And they've started their 3-game road trip today with the New Jersey, and their next game up is going to be against the New York Rangers, who I think we could definitely win that game. They get some rest tomorrow, which is nice, and they basically just go down the freeway and they'll be in Manhattan. So there's not going to be any travel there, and at this rate, Linus Ullmark is on the road trip, so that's a great thing, but it's okay. Don't rush him. Like, Forsberg's playing great, or not great, but he played great today. Marilainen's been great, so take your time with Ullmark. Take your time with Ullmark. Thank God we can be in that position, because we're not waiting for an injured goalie to come back. Like, we can just throw in guys right now that can play serviceable hockey, and because the players are going to do their job defensively. The forwards have bought into a defensive system. They've sacrificed points on the board to end up putting in a better defensive performance, and the defense has been tight. And it's weird, because in the past we've had players on the back end who have been tall and physical guys, but have not being very good defensively. You could, and this was under the past regime. You look at guys like Edgar Branson or Braden Coburn, Josh Brown, these trees back there, but they were either put into positions that weren't kind of suitable for them, or they just straight up weren't great at hockey. But right now in the top four, there's mobility and there's offense, and a guy like Nick Jensen, I think a lot of people just thought weren't going to. They thought he was just going to be a guy that puts up 10 points a year and will be good defensively, but won't put up that much offense. This guy's like pushing 20 points right now, and he's pushing Chabot for how many points. Chabot's considered an offensive defenseman, so defensively this team is really good. And then 2 days later, the Sens will go up against the Boston Bruins. So another huge game there. On the road this time in Boston, it would be their third matchup of the year, and I think it might be the last. So take care of business right there. And the thing is that Boston is a shell of what they were 2 years ago. They're so pesky because they just hang around there. They hang around. Right now they're outside of a playoff spot, but if they get a win there, that could really send Boston into a downward spiral, and make them consider making some changes before the trade deadline, because they want to make the playoffs, and even with that roster, they still have expectations on making it. 2 days later, the Ottawa Senators will host the Toronto Maple Leafs, so a crossover episode that night for Game Over. That will be their second game of the year against the Toronto Maple Leafs, and this will be the first of a 4-game homestand that will run into the start of February. And the Leafs have been good this year. They've been solid. They're first in the division, and there were some issues at the start of the year, but usually Toronto always goes through that sort of spell. In the first 20 games, they're like around 500, and then they go on a huge heater in November or December, and then they're all good by then. But Toronto, I don't know. The Sens played against the Leafs about 2 months ago, and that's when they really started to put a really good performance in defensively. They shut them out 3-0 on the road. And that's when you start to get a little bit of a taste on what this team could be in the defensive zone. Next game up, right after that, I think they get a couple days, second game of a back-to-back. So on January 25th, the Ottawa Senators will play the Leafs, and then on the Sunday, January 26th, Ottawa hosts Utah at a 5 o'clock local start. Utah has been middling this team. They were on a very good run before, but recently I think they're like 2-7-1 in the past 10 games. So Utah, you could take care of business there. The thing is, I'm saying that they could win every game, but I genuinely believe that at this rate. Like, they have all the tools to do it. Ullmark will be back by then. And the good thing is that you have 3 goalies in there right now who I think you could just kind of throw in and expect a win out of it. So the Sens will have 2 days off. I think they will have 3 days off before they host the Capitals again on January 30th. So that will be a tough game, but they took Washington to OT last game, and who knows, Washington, I'm still waiting for them to fall off a little bit, and in the playoffs, if we went up against Washington as the 8th seed and they were the number 1 seed, I would not hate that. I would not hate that whatsoever. And I think the Sens could fare well in that series, but they got to make the playoffs first. 2 days later, the Sens will host the Wild, and that will be a tough game because the Wild have been really good this year. So that will be the last home game before they go out on the road, and that's when they will be going to the south of the United States, and they will be starting 2 days later on February 3rd against the Nashville Predators, who have sort of made a run at it in the playoffs, but they started off the season so bad. They're playing decent hockey right now, but Nashville, you can win that game for sure. And then the next day, though, second game of a back-to-back, the Tampa Bay Lightning, which, fun fact, the Sens play Tampa twice in a row on the road too. So it's not one of those home and home series that you see in the NHL from time to time. And that's going to be a massive game. We'll see, because this is kind of like 8 games out, so a lot can change here. But right now, the Sens are 1 point back of Tampa Bay. They're 1 point back. They got a couple more games played, and Tampa's got a crazy goal differential, which shows you that the Sens can. It shows you that Tampa most likely is going to lock up a top 3 spot. But if you take care of business in these 2 games here on February the 4th and February the 6th, if you snag 3 or 4 points maybe, you never know. You never know. And then their last game before the Four Nations tournament is against the Florida Panthers on the road, who we've also beat this year, right, at home. And I don't know, the Sens typically don't play that well on the road against Florida, but I mean, as you've seen this year, like, this team on the road, they have this B game that is almost not unstoppable, obviously, but I'm just going to pull up the standings here. Their record on the road right now is 12-11-2, and they started off the season, I think, 0-5 or 0-6. So they've gone on like a 12-5-2 run, basically. So there's a lot to like, and there's a lot to trust on this roster. On the home side of things, they are 12-7-2, and you can always trust this team on home ice. I think it's funny because this team can score a lot of goals on home ice, and then they can play shutdown hockey on the road, because if they just get the first goal, it's wraps. It's basically wraps after that. So yeah, like, if the Sens, for the next 10 games, they got 10 games before the Four Nation. If they can go on, let's say, a 6-3-1 record, the Ottawa Senators will have a record of 30 wins, and this is through 56 games. They'll have a record of 30 wins, 21 losses, and 5 overtime losses. So that will give them 65 points. 65 points if they grab 13 out of the next 20 points. And they, in this next 10 games, they will have 4 at home and 6 on the road. And we know that towards the end of the season, I think in April, they have like 8 games in April and 7 of them are at home. So as long as you just put up a good performance at home, and most of the time your team is going to be more comfortable at home, then this team can, really start to make some noise. And the only issue is the offense right now, really, I think. But you can't complain if you're winning. You can't complain about winning. I'll take defensive, boring hockey any day of the week if it means we come out with 2 points on the board. There's not really a whole lot to break down right now. And Game Over here, we've talked about players that you could look at adding at the trade deadline. And I think we're a little bit of a ways away right now for that. So this live stream is going to be a little bit shorter today. Just because, I'm also alone here today. But also, we're kind of just in the middle of the season, and we're not close enough for the Four Nations. We're getting there, but then also the trade deadline is about probably 6 weeks away from now. So there's still some time for, Steve Staios to think about things. But there's also, he's going to have about 2 weeks off where he's going to really have an opportunity to think about things, about, his roster. It would be really nice to see David Perron come back in here. Because that's a guy that you can throw in, and if you replace it, if you take out, you're probably taking out right now Matthew Highmore for David Perron, because Perron's played 9 games this year, and that's just $4 million sitting in the press box. You can't fault a player for being injured, obviously, but that's a player you need, especially for depth scoring, and this team is, I think, like 23rd in goals for, which is, it's crazy, but then goals against, they're probably like 6th or 7th, so they're doing amazing there. So Perron, I hope he's close, because he's been practicing in a in a regular jersey as well. So hopefully Perron can make an appearance sometime soon. It looks like some of the boys are a little bit banged up. Like Jensen looks like he's going through a little bit of, some minor injuries maybe there. Timmy looks fine. He looks fine. You got to wonder if Brady's going through something. But also, if your team is winning games, then you can mask a lot of offensive, droughts that you might be going in. Because, let's talk about Brady going pointless in the past 7 games. If they went these past 7 games and they went 1-6, oh my God, he would be under so much scrutiny right now. But they're 5-1. So as long as you're winning games and that's your captain right there leading your squad, you're happy about it. Batherson has dried up a little bit. Timmy's sort of making a little bit of a comeback here. Norris had a big game last game. But the thing is that I have not all the hope in the world, but I'm confident about this team. I really am. That Buffalo game was terrible. And that was the game where they were right there at 500. I think they were 19-18. Yeah, they were 19-18-3, I think, at that rate. And we were approaching the halfway mark of the season. And that player meeting that they apparently had changed a lot of things. And the thing is that even before that, they weren't playing terrible hockey. There was a couple bad games in there. Buffalo, I guess St. Louis. They let the Dallas and Winnipeg games get away to them. But overall, this team so far this year has had a couple stinkers in there. You could look at the Buffalo game, both Buffalo games actually, which is weird. But I would say 90 to 95% of the season, this team has played solid hockey. And hey, props to the coaching staff, because they have been not perfect, obviously, because you would want the Sens to be, maybe in a top 3 Atlantic spot. But there's an opportunity there. I'm not saying they're going to grab an Atlantic spot, but this team could potentially do it. They could potentially do it. And I don't want to be that super optimistic fan that's slightly delusional, but just the way that they play hockey is good enough for this team to make it. And the good thing is that the East is kind of it's weird this year. There's the juggernaut, I guess, if you want to call that, for the Washington Cap. Oh, sorry. I lost my cord here. Hopefully we're good here. Sorry, I lost my cord on my mic. There's the Capitals at the 1 seed right now, who are top dog, top team in the NHL at the moment. And then the Metro, you got New Jersey and Carolina. They're doing very well, and they're probably going to have the top 3 spots in the Metro, because right after that, I think it is the Flyers who are... Oh, no, sorry, the Blue Jackets, actually. The Blue Jackets, who are doing decently well this year. But the thing is, the Blue Jackets could lose 2 games, and then boom, they're out of the playoffs. So they've had to go on a crazy run, winning 7 of their last 8, I believe, to eventually put themselves in this decent position right there with the Senators. And the Atlantic, the Leafs are good, but they're not like a juggernaut like the Capitals are. The Panthers have had their struggles. They have. And you have your second pair, I think it's Kulikov and Mikula right now, and they're right there at the cap. I'm not saying they're going to fall off, obviously, but, they're not as strong as they were last year. We'll put it that way. And then the Sens, you're getting Ullmark back. You never know, because if you have your starting goalie right there, then he could really turn things around for you. And their offense should get better, right? It should. Tampa Bay has shown some weaknesses quite a bit in the past 10 games or so. Montreal is doing really good right now, but they've lost 2 in a row, I think, at this rate. And I think a lot of people are expecting them to fall off. However, you never know, because this team is being on a heater. Who else we got here? Buffalo's out. Detroit went on a heater, but I'm the biggest hater on Detroit. I don't see them making the playoffs whatsoever. They have to get super lucky. Last year would have been the year for them to make it, and they choked it. So that's a team that I don't really have a lot of faith in. So that leaves the Sens, and then obviously, yeah, Buffalo is out of it. So the Sens, right? They always had the talent. It was just about the team buying in, and they've been doing that as of late. So I'm going to wrap it up there. We're pushing on 35 minutes here on Game Over. Thank you for everyone for joining. The Sens win their 5th of their last 6 games against the New Jersey Devils. This team's looking really good. And we'll see you in the next one on Tuesday up against the New York Rangers. We'll be back. So take care, everyone.